Alright, got a little lathe project here, making a part for work. Basically, I need to make this thing. Um, this is just a chunk of 3/4 steel by, I think this is 2 inches, with a hole and a rounded profile here. This is half 20, an air cylinder screws in here, and it, for a part that I have at work, this sits on a pin and it just moves back and forth. A bushing gets pressed in here, so we're going to ream that to 1 inch. Um, but yeah, what I'm starting with is just, rectangle. And the trick is going to be putting this radius on here because I don't have a milling machine. So I think what we're going to end up doing is just lopping corners off of the rectangular piece and probably just doing it on the grinder. This is not critical by any means. I don't know how well it shows up, but the original was flame cut with just a, pattern tracing, obviously acetylene torch. And the only reason it even has to be round that this bumps up against the stop screw, and it just needs to not be flat so it can, hit the stop screw and not bind. So you can see the original fit and finish is not that great. The hole is not centered. The problem what we've got here is the threads here are pretty well stripped out. So what I've got going on here, the rectangular hunk is chucked in the forge jaw. And I'm just going to indicate this. I don't have enough hands to, do this in process, but basically the way you do this is you indicate this versus this, get that the same, and you go that versus that and get that the same. It's not like indicating a round part where you can just spin it. You have to, just do the flats. See my indicator set up here. It's just, a bolt in the tool post with some rods and some linkages. The real trick to doing this is this has to be on the center line. And since I don't have a convenient way of doing it vertically, we're doing it, with the tool post, with the indicator this way, with the, the arm horizontal. We're doing it vertical. So what I did was I brought the indicator over here and I just set the center on my tailstock quill, and you just adjust the cross slide until you get the highest reading on the indicator, and then you're centered across the ways this way. And then I just locked it back here. These are just some washers. That's the binding handle, and yeah. So let me get this dialed in. I've just got it stuck in the forge jaw. It's not really tight. It's not particularly centered. Just eyeballing. It doesn't look too bad, but we'll get it dialed in and see what we get. Okay, so we got her dialed in. Try and show this one-handed here. The doesn't look like, there it goes. All right, so we're on the short side. Basically, the way you do this is you tweak it until you get to your lowest number, which right there is 90. And you have to lift this up all the way, otherwise you're going to smash the indicator tip off of it. Roll it around the other side. Roll it till it's at its lowest, and we're at 90, so we're centered, on the short side. Same thing on the long side. Lift it up. It looks like we bottom out at 65. Of course, these measurements don't mean anything, it's just relative. So, the other way. Where's the glare coming from? Hard to see, but it's 65. So, we are centered in both directions here. So now when I face this off, and then drill my hole for the the threaded piece that goes in there, we should be dead on center. I do have to face this off just because this was just cut with a bandsaw. It's not very flat. Doesn't have to be particularly flat, but it's a lot easier to not have the bit walk off center if this is flat. And I have a spinning thing here, so I may as well do it. Doesn't take any real effort. I'm just going to use probably that bit there, just a high-speed steel in the old, old lantern post. Probably not going to take a whole lot off of it. And once this is faced, I'll make my measurement from there to where I have to locate the hole. I'll probably drill that on this machine too, because I do have to ream it, and I don't have quite the right drill bit. I have a 15/16 and I should have a 31/64. So I'll probably try it with the 15/16 to see if that's close enough to ream it. Just measure it, because I'm just going to guess that it's going to drill a little bit oversized. The only risk is that if it drills too much oversize, then I can't, if it ends up more than 1 inch, then the bushing's not going to hold. So maybe the answer here is drill this smaller, bore it to size, and then I know where I'm at. Anyway, we'll get to that point when we get to that point. Alright, so I've taken 15 off, and it still needs to go some more. You can still see some, the rough cutting from the bandsaw there. So the way I'm doing this, unlock the carriage, run this in another 15, and see the rib where it's cutting. So let's see how that looks. It needs a little more yet. Getting there. We're getting there. But anyway, basically that's the idea. We're just going to keep sneaking in on this until this is flat. Like I said, the dimensions are not overly critical on this, so probably just going to make it flat and smooth, and then go from there. These are cut larger than the original, so I've got plenty of room to fix any mistakes here. Okay, got the hole drilled and tapped. Sorry I didn't show that, but well, I was drilling and tapping a hole. It's not all that involved here. So now what we're going to do is set this, and this is 1 5/8 from this face to the center here. So what I've done is I've set the old scribers here to 1 5/8 using my scale. Again, I realize this is not the most accurate way of doing this, but it's good enough, So I'm just going to scribe the center line there, then I'll find the center, this way, and then punch it and see what we get. So this would be easier if I had a set of odd leg calipers. However, I do not. So let me set this down, because I need 2 hands to do this, and then we'll punch the hole in it. The interesting thing is going to be setting this up so that the hole is centered on the lathe, because it's obviously going to be this, right? So this is going to be oblong on the forge jaw, so I will have to do something vaguely interesting. I'll show you that setup. Alright, so here's our setup here. See if I can get a little more light on the situation. Maybe this will help. Alright, so we've got the plate chucked in there. I went ahead and hit it with a center drill on the drill press. This is a push rod out of my Lincoln. It's one of the original stock ones. So you can see here it's got a ball end that's hollow. So I've got the ball in the center drill spot there. The indicator is on center, and we've got the hollow just resting on a dead center. So basically the way this is going to work, well, first you got to get the carriage out of the way, dum-dum. So that's going to be our indicator. You can see the well, let me see if I can get you can see the run out on it. So I'm not gonna dial this in on camera because I don't have enough hands, but it looks like we've got basically 50 thou of eccentricity here. And you can also see how not centered the chuck is. See how much is there versus these two are the long dimension here and here. These two will be basically even. So I'm going to go ahead and set this up, and we're going to hog this baby out. Alright, so that's well within what I would consider to be acceptable. I'm showing less than a thou there. Now, of course, what I read here is going to be less than actual, but if I'm reading, a half a thou here, and just rough extrapolation here, this is, basically half the distance here. So if I'm at a half here, I'm basically at 1 there. And that's way close enough for what this needs to be. So now I'll start drilling. Hopefully I don't screw this up. My silver and Deming bits are not exactly the highest quality, so we will see what they do. Well, for better or for worse, there it is. I neglected to show some steps here, but to be honest with you, it wasn't all that interesting. Basically, when I made the hole there, I used, wherever they are, these guys, the dividers, to swing an arc on there, just to make them, just for a guide. And then I stuck it on the bench grinder. It's not quite perfect. You may or may not be able to see it, but there's kind of a flat spot there. Looks better that way. Hacksaw got a little off course, so it went a little far there. But all in all, not bad. It's serviceable. Again, there's the original. You can see that's where it hits. You can see the flame cut, the grooves in here. So this part, I don't think it's any worse than this one. It'll get the job done. It's not pretty, but the other one isn't either. This is going to go in a radiation cell where it's going to have the ever-living bullshit cooked out of it. It's what? This used to be orange. You can see what happened to it. Most of the time they're just brown. No paint at all. This one I found on the shelf down in the area of where we keep all the dead stuff. And, well, it was down there because that was no good, I guess. But there we go. One spare part, and I think it'll go back together. Thanks for watching.